Kenya iko na great potential. Kenya does not need to play in the third league. Vile amesemambia nyinyi 1960 kulikuwa na nchi tatu ambazo zilikuwa katika the same state of economic development: Ghana, Kenya na South Korea. In terms of demography, population, in terms of per capita income, in terms of literacy levels, in the major economic indicators, those three countries were at par. 1960. Today, these are now 65 years. 65 years. Korea has moved from the third world economy to a first world economy. Per capita income in Korea is nearly 40 times higher than these other countries. So you ask yourself, what is it that the Koreans got right, that the Kenyans got wrong? If you answer that question, then you're on the way to solving the Kenyan problem. And it is doable. It's doable. General Park Chung-hee is the one who actually is the father of the modern Korea. And he came, and most of these measures were taken with resistance. But he overcome the resistance, and they managed to improve the conditions of living in Korea.
Now, the SI unit of Conmanship is none other than this octogenarian. People have IQ, intelligence quotient. People have EQ, emotional quotient. But he has CQ, Conmanship quotient. However, that said, let's give credit where it's due and let's call a spade a spade. The man is well endowed in history. When it comes to history, he has acumen. That one I will not lie. But the history he's giving us about South Korea does not resonate well with us. And I want to tell you why. You cannot tell us that we have potential to be a greater country, yet you are part and parcel of the problem. You are the reason why we are stagnating, why the country has become so lethargic and so inert. You cannot solve a problem using the same thinking when you created the problem. If we talk about this man, he is an impediment to good governance and leadership. Just recently, he was on record stopping the impeachment of a governor. And yet, impeachment is a constitutional process that is enshrined and envisaged in our sacrosanct constitution. And obviously, he saved that governor with a prize. So how do you want us to reach our potential and you keep on interfering just to get some money? Let's just be honest, how? This is somebody who has converted ODM into a personal and family fiefdom. A political party that is just a vehicle to power, and it stands for nothing and will fall for anything. The will of the people is never respected, and democracy says majority have their way and minority have their say. Whoever who gets the most votes carries the day. But when it comes to ODM, that democracy only exists on paper and in people's mouth, but in reality, it is a fallacy and a mirage, because those that are going to vie do not go through the process of nomination. They are handpicked, and we all know he who pays the piper the highest gets the ticket. That means the will of the people is subverted and subjugated, and that is why Luo Nyanza has lagged behind when it comes to development, because all elected leaders are stooges of this political conman. Then how do you want us to reach our potential if you keep on handpicking those who will be loyal to you and those who will give you kickbacks? How? Countries like South Korea, I repeat, countries like South Korea focused on industrialization. They invested heavily in education and training their people. While us, we got stuck in the cycle of debts, corruption, and politics over development. This man has been in politics for over 50 years. For 20 years, he was an MP. And there's nothing in his 20 years he did to gentrify the slum of Kibera. Nothing. Other than use the youths as his pawns to his endless quest for power and supplying them with paper bags for their flying toilets. One man, Ken Okoth, came, and in 5 years, he built a good secondary girls' school. He achieved more in 5 years than what this political conman did in 20 years. And the highest position this conman has ever held is that of MP. This one for Prime Minister was a reward. Even Gachagua himself has attained a higher seat than this conman, that of Deputy President. This man fought Moi. After fighting Moi, his loyalty was bought. After shedding a lot of blood and destroying property and pocketing money, this man fought Kibaki. And in that year, 2007, we witnessed the worst post-election violence in Kenya. And if there's anybody who should bear responsibility, it's the two protagonists, the late Kibaki and Kandabodoman. People died, property destroyed, people displaced. And after all that, he was bought. This man fought Uhuru Kenyatta, tooth and nail, asubuhi bangi, jioni pombe, dereva ni mlevi, makanga ni mwizi. His loyalty again was bought. At what price? Youths being killed. No Raila, no peace. Economy tanked because of his daily maandamanos. Come Ruto. He fought Ruto. He fought Ruto at the expense of what? People being killed, property being destroyed. Again, his loyalty was bought. At whose expense? How do you want us to achieve our potential and reach the likes of South Korea if all you do is do politics of demagoguery where you are worshipped? It's like ODM is a cult. It's not even a party. When he says jump, you don't even ask why. You say how high, because if you say why, they will unleash the goons on you. You play politics of chickenery. Politics of populism, politics of tokenism. Anything you do is for political mileage and expediency, but not for national interest. And yet you want us to reach South Korea. South Korea themselves have a zero tolerance on corruption, and the law cuts across the board. It favors and it fears nobody, irrespective of your age, your political status, your financial muscle. It sweeps. But here we all know the law is for the poor, justice is for the rich. You are guilty until proven rich. And that is why you politicians are corrupting this country with impunity, because the system is built to protect you, those who are in power, as it criminalizes the innocent people who stand up and fight for their rights and justice. If there's any country, Bwanakanda Bondoman, you should be comparing Kenya to, is Zaire during the days of Mobutu Sese Seko. This is a man who plundered his country. This is a man who wasted funds, educating your kids in Paris, and others in Zaire cannot even afford education, importing caviar, the finest champagne, and yet your people cannot even afford a meal. That is the country you should be comparing Kenya to. But don't tell us about South Korea. And then you tell us we have potential. Yet you are the problem. You are the problem. You keep on meddling in politics for a fee. Instead of focusing on development and how this country can grow in leaps and bounds, you keep on meddling like an idle widower. So save us this hulabaloo of telling us here that we have potential. Potential. Yes, we do have potential. Kenya has great minds. It has hard-working people who work hard, resilient people, people who have tenacity. Wake up here at 4 and you see how Kenyans are trekking, going to work to build their nation. But we are being let down by politicians like you, who put selfish interests over national interests. Corruption is your number one goal. Spreading poverty so that we can remain dependent on you people through handouts is what you people want. Look at this regime that you're supporting. They are killing education so they can have a population that is illiterate and dependent on them. They are killing our healthcare so that the population can be sick and productivity goes down and we depend on you people. Save us those lies of South Korea. Yes, we can be like South Korea, but without politicians like you. We want politicians who respect the rule of law, who have fidelity to the Constitution, who abide by the pillars of accountability, transparency, and responsibility. But we shall never be South Korea or Singapore if we have people like you. And that's the bitter truth.